Hi there all, Mohammad Najmi here, and today I have for you some facts about wheels. So let's just jump straight into the episode. Number 1. Spoked wheels appeared about 2000 BC when they were in use on chariots in Asia Minor. A spoke is one of some number of rods radiating from the center of a wheel, the hub where the axle connects, connecting the hub with the round traction surface. Number 2. Some of the earliest wheels were made from horizontal slices of tree trunks. Because of the uneven structure of wood, the wheel made from a horizontal slice of a tree trunk will tend to be inferior to one made from rounded pieces of longitudinal boards. Number 3. In Britain, a large wooden wheel measuring about 1 meter in diameter was uncovered at the Must Farm site in East Anglia in 2016. The specimen, dating from 1100 to 800 BC, represents the most complete and earliest of its type found in Britain. The wheel's hub is also present. A horse's spine found nearby suggests the wheel may have been part of a horse-drawn cart. Obviously, the oldest wooden wheel that had been found, as we covered in a previous episode, was the Ljubljana Marshes wheel in Slovenia, which was around 5 to 5,500 years old. Number 4. Researchers believe that the wheelbarrow first appeared in classical Greece, sometime between the 6th and 4th century BC, then sprung up in China 4 centuries later and ended up in medieval Europe, perhaps by way of Byzantine or the Islamic world. Although wheelbarrows were expensive to purchase, they could pay for themselves in just 3 or 4 days in terms of labor savings. But obviously, when it comes to the history of wheel, we don't really know the actual accuracy of its history. Number 5. The Wheel of Fortune is much older than Patsajak. In fact, the wheel which the goddess Fortuna spins to determine the fate of those she looks upon is an ancient concept of either Greek or Roman origin, depending on which academic you talk to. Roman scholar Cicero and the Greek poet Pindar both reference the Wheel of Fortune. Number 6. After the axle, the first wheels did not appear on any mode of transportation, but on a child's toy. In 1880, an archaeologist discovered such a toy buried in a child's tomb in Mexico. The toy was the figure of a coyote. Scholars estimate that it took another 300 years after the wheels were used in pottery and toy making for them to be applied to transportation. Number 7. The domestication of animals may have delayed the use of the wheel for transportation. Larger animals used for pulling carts may have been difficult to tame and only became domesticated much later. Number 8. The invention of the wheel transformed the lives of early humans. The new technology not only made transporting objects and products easier and faster, but it also made it possible for people to work better. Instead of relying on groups of people to work the soil, for example, it became possible for individuals to use large animals and for individual families to rely on their own labor. The wheel also allowed better migration. Wheels made transport of material possessions, including houses, possible, which meant groups of people could travel long distances for longer periods. Number 9. The invention of the water wheel is accredited to an ancient engineer named Vitruvius, who died in 14 AD. The vertical wheel was used to grind grains and supply water for drinking and crop irrigation. Number 10. The spinning wheel was invented more than 2,500 years ago in India. It contributed to faster and more efficient weaving and fabric making. A spinning wheel is a device for spinning thread or yarn from fibers. It was fundamental to the cotton textile industry prior to the Industrial Revolution. It laid the foundations for later machinery such as the spinning jenny and spinning frame, which displays the spinning wheel during the Industrial Revolution. The flag of India has a wheel at its center. The wheel inspired by the spinning wheel has 24 spokes. The spinning wheel was added to the original design of the flag in 1921 because of its association with Mahatma Gandhi, who encouraged Indian self-reliance by producing their own fabrics using local fibers. The wheel was later replaced by the Dharma Chakra, also called the Wheel of the Law. Because the chakra is associated with Emperor Ashoka, the wheel is also known as the Ashoka Chakra. The Dharma Chakra is meant to symbolize movement, where there is life and progress, as opposed to stagnation, where there is only death and nothingness. The wheel has become one of the most common symbols across different cultures and societies. It has become a metaphor for repetition or cycles and a symbol for strength, health, and success. India is not the only country to feature a wheel in its flag. The Romani flag has a Dharma Chakra of its own, featuring a wheel with 16 spokes. Number 11. The oldest potter's wheel was discovered in Ur, a city in Iraq. This wheel is estimated to be from 3129 BC, which is over 5000 years old. Number 12. Scholars believe that the earliest vehicles may have been four-wheeled, as evidenced by depictions on ancient pottery that may date back between 3400 to 3385 BC. The Polish Bronze pot, for example, along with clay tablets discovered in Iraq, showed illustrations of four-wheel devices. Interestingly, two-wheel vehicles came after four-wheel transportation. The earliest known depiction of this simpler vehicle has been dated between 3402 to 2800 BC. 13. The first wheels to utilize iron rims were found on Celtic chariots that date to 800 to 450 BC. 14. Hamsters were not the first animals on wheels. From the 16th century to the 19th century in our modern times, dogs were used for turnspits in the kitchens of Britain. The dogs running on wheels helped turn the meat over the fire so it would cook evenly. Imagine that. 15. Wheels are also force multipliers because they provide leverage. Because the rim of the wheel has a greater turn distance than the axle, there is more force present at the axle compared to the rim or outer wheel. This is why carts with larger wheels are easier to push or pull. A wheel on its own is not considered a machine. However, if it is paired with an axle, the combination can be considered a simple machine. Although wheels and tires are used interchangeably, they are not actually the same. Wheels are round objects that actually come with an axle and a hub. A tire, on the other hand, is part of the wheel that is actually made of rubber. Wheels are used to roll while tires are used to create traction. 16. In 1893, the World's Columbian Exposition was held in Chicago to celebrate the arrival of Columbus in the New World 400 years prior. A grand structure was designed and built to help commemorate the affair. It became the centerpiece of the event, standing at 264 feet. It was christened the Ferris wheel after its designer, an engineer named George Washington Gale Ferris, Jr. It was meant to rival France's Eiffel Tower, which was built in 1887. The Ferris wheel was not the first of its kind. Similar contraptions were already invented in Bulgaria as far back as the 17th century. They were made with chairs strapped to a rotating scaffolding that was manually turned. These were called ups and downs or pleasure wheels. 17. The world's largest tire manufacturer is actually Lego, the toy company. It churns out about 320 million tires every year, all designed to fit the toys they also produce. I remember playing with them when I was a child. I loved Lego. Who doesn't, I guess. 18. The expression fifth wheel was an actual wheel or just a portion of it. This wheel was made of two parts that rotate on each other. It provides added support so a carriage could not tip. This part is considered unnecessary, which explains the meaning of the term today. Another common expression is a third wheel. I'm usually referring to a person or thing who is unneeded in a situation. The origin of the phrase is the extra wheel found on four-wheel wagons or coaches. 19. The wagon wheel effect is the phenomena wherein a wheel spinning forward at high speed appears to spin backward. This is usually observed in movies and is due to the rate at which the scene is captured by frame, which is usually 24 frames a second. Any gaps between each captured image are filled by the brain, which creates a backward moving effect. 20. Roulette means small wheel in French. The first form of roulette was devised in 18th century France. Many historians believe Pascal introduced a primitive form of roulette in the 17th century in his search for a perpetual motion machine. The roulette mechanism is a hybrid of a gaming wheel invented in 1720 and the Italian game Biribi. And now I'll give you a bonus fact. The most common design for a perpetual motion device is the overbalanced wheel. The concept of perpetual motion machines has been around for centuries. It is the holy grail of science, and if it were to be achieved, it would produce free energy once it is set in motion. Perhaps the most famous example is Bhaskara's wheel. Invented in 1150 by Bhaskara II, an Indian mathematician. The wheel machine was an attempt to create a perpetual motion machine. The wheel consisted of curved or tilted spokes, partially filled with mercury. Okay folks, that's all I have for you today. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, please remember to like and share it with others. And also, if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to the podcast. It would help me a lot. Anyways, until next time, take care, be good, and thank you so much for listening.